Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Live with Ann Olson. It's my pleasure to be here. I know I've been chatting with some of you in advance. Thank you for joining us early and waiting. And by early, I know some of you are up late. I see quite a few names coming from the Philippines. I'll quickly do my round of hellos to everyone. I don't think my mom is watching live because she's getting a vaccine today. So very happy. You go, Mom. But I usually say hello to my mom, dad, and Michino. Bonnie down the street is watching. We've got Suzanne. Kathy is watching. Maybe even T, who wants to learn about making lemon curd. Who else? We've got Daniel in Laredo. And of course, Hermione, Cherry, you join us every week. And I really value your input. And you ask some amazing questions. And these are the questions all of you are asking as I get into today's recipe that really suits spring. And it's with special thanks to Rolling Meadow Farms for providing the dairy and sponsoring these live streams that I am able to share with you my recipe for a lemon cream tart. Now, this is not a lemon meringue pie. It is very tart and tangy and citrusy. It is also rich and fulfilling at the same time. And at the heart of it is a delicious lemon curd. And I don't think I have made a lemon curd on a live stream yet. So there's going to be a different range of questions we have. But let's get right into it and start with the tart shell. I want to focus today's live stream on the lemon curd. So I want to keep the crust relatively simple. I am making a graham cracker crust and I need to melt a 1/4 cup of butter to do that. So I'll just get that organized first. And then we can talk about the cookie crumbs because I know we've had discussions in the past, depending where you live and what you have access to, what you can use in place of graham cracker crumbs. I'm just weighing in. It's a 1/4 cup, so 60 grams of butter I need to melt. And I will need lots of this butter for later on because that's what makes a lemon curd just so luscious. And I'll just melt my butter here. And I've measured 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs into my bowl already. If you're in Europe, the UK particularly, digestive biscuits work wonderfully. What you want is ultimately a dry style of cookie. Nothing that has too much sugar in it or it will actually caramelize and burn. If you have homemade cookie dough, you could use a sablé or sucré pastry and actually make this like a formal French tart if you wanted instead of a crumb crust. And Cherry, you were asking about using a pie pastry. Last week's live stream, I made quiche and we blind baked pie pastry. You could certainly use that in this case. And I see some of you had made the quiche over the course of the week, and I hope you really enjoyed it. So thank you very, very much for that question. I saw someone write a very smart note. And what's the difference between a pie and a tart? And there is actually a lot of debate about the difference. And I'll just tell you, this is merely my opinion. I'm not presuming it to be fact, but I look at the vessel that holds the dessert, and to me, that determines the difference between a pie and a tart, because pies can have 1 crust or they can have 2 crusts. A tart can have 1 crust or 2 crusts. I find a tart tends to be a little more elaborate and has garnish on top, and this is why today's dessert is a tart. But where a pie is put in a pie plate with angled sides, a tart is baked in a straight-sided pan. So I have my 9-inch, 23-centimeter round fluted pan. I do have the removable bottom type, but if you have the type that's all one piece, this recipe will still work fine. You'll just serve the tart out of the pan itself as opposed to extracting it with the crumb crust. But if you have the pie pastry, you may be able to pop it out. All right, I've got my butter almost melted here. I believe it was Cherry had asked the question about why do I not put sugar in this graham cracker crust recipe, but yet when I made my triple chocolate cheesecake at the beginning of this live stream series, I put a couple tablespoons of sugar in the crust. I find for this recipe and the density of the filling, I don't need the crust and the sugar. I find with the cheesecake, because of the weight of it, you've got more of the chance for moisture to seep in, where I find with this lemon curd tart, I don't get that moisture leaking through the crust, and it stays nice and crisp and holds its shape. That sugar helps it hold together and crisp up that little bit extra, so that's why. There we go. I'm going to pour in my butter. Let's get that out of the way. And there's nothing technically challenging here. You just want to make sure that graham cracker crumb gets evenly coated with the butter. And I've preheated my oven to 350, 180 Celsius. I see lots of comments coming in, and I see the likes creeping up there. You know, I've really enjoyed through these live streams seeing the likes and challenging you. So we definitely want to get up to 300 as soon as we can. Now we're out to break a timing record if we can. So if you've joined us, I'm making a lemon cream tart, and I'm just working on the graham crust now that's evenly combined. And oh, hello from Zimbabwe. Excellent. I think you may be our first viewer from Zimbabwe that has written to say so. So thank you very much for joining us. Now I'll tip the graham cracker crumbs with the butter into my pan. And I prefer using the back of a spoon. I've just got a large tablespoon right now. And when it comes to pressing the crust, I like to press it up the sides first, and then I worry about the bottom. And so I hope you can catch this. We've got, of course, Michael running the cameras, and TJ, our channel manager. If I can't get to a question for you in time, he'll pop you a little note, and I'll have plenty of opportunity through today's live stream to catch your questions, because making the lemon curd just takes the time that it takes. Not too long, but it'll give me time I can multitask, read your questions and answer them while I'm making the lemon curd. So I'm just using the back of the spoon to press the crust up the sides. And I find this works well because I don't like when you get a crust that has a thick part at the seam where the side and the bottom of the tart pan meet. I want to leave room for the filling, but I also want the tart shell to be well structured and firm enough. So once you've got that graham crumb up the sides, and I'm kind of using just my thumb to hold over top so that I don't push it higher than it needs to go. All right. And now I just use the back of the spoon to flatten it at the bottom of the pan. Hello to Turkey, El Salvador, Indonesia. This is amazing. Kentucky. Oh, Elizabeth, yes, this is the curd cam today. It's not the cocoa cam. There is no chocolate today. We are going citrus. And I love citrus desserts, especially this time of year. I know some of you are watching from South America, so you are in your late summer, early autumn season, but here we are really excited about getting into spring. In this part of Canada, we've had a beautiful couple of days of warm weather and sunshine, and it all changed today. It's a nice reminder. Mother Nature has reminded us that we will still get we always get one snowfall in April. Ugh, bleh. March. Well, we got one in April too. Always one. There we go. Okay, so I've pressed the crust in, and this just takes 10 minutes in that 350, 180 Celsius oven. You're not looking for any visual change. It sets the crust. When I do a no-bake dessert, I use more butter, and then I chill the crust, and I don't bake it. You need more butter to actually set it. But you do want to toast this for 10 minutes, and that just ensures it's going to stay nice and crisp. I'll set my timer. There we go. Okay, now we get into the lemon curd. Now, why is this lemon curd called a lemon cream curd? If you've ever made a lemon curd, it is done stovetop over a water bath. So I have my pot filled with just an inch of water. It's considered a custard because you're cooking eggs with liquid, and where a creme brulee is eggs with cream, creme caramel is eggs with milk. In the case of a lemon curd, it's eggs with butter. Now, in the case of this particular recipe, I prefer adding the butter after I cook the curd stovetop. It creates a different style of curd, and I have one made the more traditional style where you actually melt the butter in with the eggs and sugar and cook it, and it has a different appearance and consistency than this style, which has the butter added after the curd has cooled. And The reason for that is different uses, different flavors. It has a different appearance to it. And this is the magic of baking. You can take the same ingredients and do so many different things with it. So what I'm going to do is start with my 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated sugar. And you will see, of course, this complete recipe below the screen, right below me here. You'll see the show more button. But don't forget that, you see the little like button off to the side? I see we crossed 300, so thank you very much. Now we're gonna go for 4, everybody. We're only just a few minutes into the demonstration, so we've got lots of time to reach our goals, but thank you. If you're enjoying yourself, hit the like button. Oh, hello from Islamabad and lots of people from the Philippines, which brings up my next point. Now, a lot of you had asked about using different types of citrus. Here in North America, we have to import our citrus, and it comes from southern climates where now, this is the time of year, citrus is at its peak season. So I find the lemons are juicier, they've got a delicious flavor. I prefer, when lemon is going to be the lead flavor or the star of the dessert, I prefer using freshly squeezed lemon juice. What I do is, look at the big bowl of lemons I have, is I buy a bag of lemons, and then you can zest all of them and juice all of them and then freeze them. What I like to do for the lemon zest is if you pack it in a thin plastic bag, resealable bag, if it's a thin enough layer, frozen, you can just kind of crack off a little piece of lemon zest and then you have it when you need it to add to your desserts. And then the lemon juice you can freeze as you wish in little jars or in an ice cube tray if you want, but then you always have your freshly squeezed. And the price is better when you buy them bulk, of course. Now, I know a lot of you are watching from the Philippines, and I have visited the Philippines, and I know I have tasted desserts made using calamansi. Well, calamansi is served next to everything. You have a big plate of adobo, there's the calamansi on the side. And I love the flavor of calamansi lime juice. For those who are not from the Philippines and may have not had calamansi lime, it looks like a little lime on the outside. It's green colored and it's rather small. You cut into it and it's the color of an orange, but it is not sweet like a navel orange or a clementine. It is tart and tangy, but it's got its own beautiful citrus flavor. And I would say 100% a calamansi cream tart would be fantastic. Just substitute 1-to-1 in this recipe for the lemon juice that's called for. Before I add the juice, I am going to add my lemon zest, finely grated. And I did buy a new zester since the last time I grated lemon on a live stream. I think that was a couple of weeks ago. So you want the finely grated lime zest, and the heat as we cook the curd gently over the water bath is going to draw out a deeper lemon flavor. Without the zest, you won't get the flavor. We are going to strain this curd, so you won't get those little bits of the lemon zest in there in the finished product. There we go. Now, when it comes to juicing lemons, you have a lot of options. You can cut the lemon in half, and a fork will do the trick. Really twist the fork along as you're juicing the lemons, and you'll want to strain it afterwards to make sure there are no seeds. You've got a tool like this, which is a bar. It's called a bar citrus juicer, and you simply cut the lemon in half, but what's interesting is it feels like, because of the shape, you should drop the lemon in this way, but you don't. You drop it in upside down, so this pushes it, almost pushes the lemon inside out as it juices it, and it's really quite effective. You've also got, I have all the toys here, your conventional lemon juicer that you twist the lemon half to extract. And then I have some vintage ones. Oh, you can't see it from here. Some old ones, but that's a project. When I'm juicing more than a dozen lemons or oranges, I pull out the citrus juicer. So I'm just going to give the lemon zest and sugar a quick stir, and this already starts pulling the oils out of the lemon zest into the sugar, and you can even see how the sugar starts getting a moist look to it. Now I'll add my 175 ml or 3/4 cup of fresh lemon juice. There we go. And you'll notice at this point, well, it's not looking very lemony at all because the lemon look comes from the eggs. And really, a lemon curd relies on that combination of eggs and butter to set it. So for this recipe, you need 2 egg yolks and 4 whole eggs. I'm gonna get my water bath started right here. So I'll separate my 2 yolks. I also like making meringue desserts in the springtime. They're so light and fluffy and sweet and simple, so I'll definitely be saving some whites for that. And I have been paying attention to all of your requests for other recipes I can work on, so I am working on them. I see Jackie was asking questions, any tips for macaron? Well, I've been playing with a new macaron method. Not new that I invented it and it came out of nowhere, but it's a technique I haven't seen often used, and it's the Swiss method of making macaron. And I really have had a lot of success with it. So I've made a note of that and hopefully can share. We've got the choux craquelin I've been working on, and also some other simpler projects. So moving forward, you can always count on us for creating lots of new live streams. Live streams are our favorite thing to do. Don't we like them, Michael?
Love it.
Yeah, we love it. Can you believe we've been doing these for a year? So we want to keep it up and give you new content. So give us some time to get creative, because I feel like that's what we're good at, getting creative. I don't want to forget the sour cream. All right, so just to protect the eggs a little bit. Now you've got the acidity of the lemon juice, which will help prevent the eggs from overcooking as I'm cooking them on the water bath. And I do like the set and the flavor and the richness I get from sour cream. And I know Hermione was asking, in Greece, she doesn't have access to the sour cream, but I would call it Greek yogurt. You're in Greece, you probably just call it yogurt. Would work perfectly, and that goes for anywhere. I know sour cream is not available in every country, but any sort of a fresh tart cheese or a yogurt, if there's a fermented product, would work absolutely beautifully here. Now, when you whisk in the sour cream, you'll find it won't dissolve right away. You'll get little speckles. Now, the conventional way to make a lemon curd is you actually add your butter now, and it starts melting and cooking as you place this over your water bath. And this takes about 5 minutes to cook, but had I added the butter to it, it would probably take 10 to 15 minutes. So there's reason one why I like to add the butter afterwards, and that's because this cook time is cut in half by simply cooking the eggs and the lemon juice. Now, normally I like to do this in a metal bowl. I'll be honest, but I want you to see what I'm working on right now, so that's why I have it in the glass bowl. It may take a little extra time to just really get cooking, and then it holds the heat, so I'll get it off the heat quickly when it's time. So I talked about the first reason why I like to add the butter after is to cut the cook time in half. The other reason I like to is because it keeps the butter soft and it doesn't melt. Because have you melted butter before and then have it set up and you get a grittiness to it? I find sometimes a curd can have that grittiness to it. And it was even, yes, Christina wrote earlier on that she made this recipe adding the butter afterwards, and she got a gritty texture even though she knows the curd was smooth. And I almost wonder if maybe the curd was just a little too warm and it melted the butter. And so once it set up again, it had that gritty texture. So the fact is I make this, oh, there's my crust. Now this is the nice thing about making a curd. You want to whisk pretty constantly. It doesn't have to be vigorously whisked, but you can step aside and, check on things. You don't have to babysit this. It's not like something made with chocolate or a custard made directly over the stovetop. So I'm gonna come pull my crust out. Here it is, just to show you. There we go. It doesn't look any different than when I first started. I'm going to set it aside, and yeah, I'm going to use, this one will cool by the time I'm ready to use it. There we go. And now back to the curd. What I do have ready, I'm using a pie plate to cool my lemon curd, just simply because the surface area means it'll cool faster. And you want to have a strainer ready to strain this. And I do, regardless of what type of lemon curd I make, I always strain it, because even if you know you've cooked it perfectly, there might just be a couple little eggy bits that just aren't as smooth as they need to be, and you want to strain that out, and you want to strain out the lemon zest. So now I can see this is starting to warm up a little bit. The sour cream has dissolved. So I think this is a good break, because I'm just going to keep the curd moving. I'm not looking to give it volume or anything. We're not making a sabayon or a sponge cake with this, but it's got that beautiful lemon color, and I'm going to take a few questions. So, oh, Kanchan wants me to make a shortcake recipe. That's a good one. Ooh, that's good for a summertime. Yeah, with strawberries, when strawberries in season. That is a great idea. Hello from the Philippines. Cynthia says she likes using Nilla wafers for a crust. Perfect. That works perfectly. Now you understand that dry, because Nilla wafers, if you don't know what they are, they're a little dry vanilla cookie, and they're perfect because they just, coated with butter, they won't absorb the moisture, but it's nice and tender and a simple flavor, but they're not overly sweet in the cookie world. I think a ladyfinger biscuit would work wonderfully well. A dry, like a Savoyardi type biscuit, if you pulse it in a food processor, would give you an excellent crust, and very delicate actually with the lemon curd right here. Ahmad, great question. Ahmad is asking, why is this filling different from my lemon meringue pie? This has an altogether different texture. While the taste is tart and lemony, this is definitely a richer tart, and it has a creaminess to it that is very different than a lemon meringue pie. And so the method is different. And really the end result is altogether, when you see it, and then if you try it and taste it, it really does point to that difference between a pie and a tart. I don't think you would ever mistake this particular recipe as a pie. And it's also by volume. This is richer than a lemon meringue pie filling, which has water and lemon juice and sugar, fewer eggs to it. And so a lemon meringue pie filling sits a lot higher in the pie shell, where this is slightly thinner because it is so rich. I'm just going to moderate my heat as I'm stirring and talking to you. Now, something, as I'm multitasking here, reading the screen, looking at you here, and whisking, you might notice, Michael, if you can switch the lemon cam over to the stove, I've got some big bubbles now just from my whisking that are forming on the top of the curd. When you start to see those large bubbles become small bubbles and start to disappear, and you'll feel the pull of the whisk, then you know your curd is almost ready. If you'd like to be very specific about it, then you would want to measure this to 165 Fahrenheit. That way you know you have fully cooked the eggs and they are safe to use, and you pull it off at 165. Even 160 is acceptable, but for the maximum thickness, remember that egg whites set at a slightly lower temperature than yolks. So we've got 4 whole eggs in this recipe, and this is why we're cooking it over the water bath, for the gentle heat. It's only the steam that is cooking the eggs. The steam is heating the bowl, and then the bowl heats the eggs, and that's how they're cooking. And you'll see there's steam coming up the back of the bowl. We're not melting chocolate, where you want to keep water away from the chocolate. To have a little steam, so long as it's not uncomfortable, you don't want to burn yourself, then you're fine. Okay, let's get some more questions. We've got some good ones here. What temperature would you usually set? Oh, scrolling up too quickly. You might have to write that one again. Hello from Jakarta. Is there a difference between whipped cream and heavy cream? That is a great question. It's how creams are named by country. So here in Canada, we call our cream, our 35% cream, whipping cream. Some countries call it heavy cream. Other countries call it double cream. So you really want to look at your milk fat content. Anything that is over 30% milk fat can be whipped. Under 30%, you won't get the whip volume. It needs that percentage of fat content. So in Canada, it's 35. In some other provinces, actually in Canada, it's 36 even. So it can vary. Now I'm just, still got big bubbles, so no risk. I can take some more questions. Oh, Anta is asking a good question. Can you please make vanilla essence recipe without alcohol? I'd have to do a little research on that. But the best way to extract vanilla flavor, because extracts are alcohol based, is to create a vanilla sugar. Because most of your sweets are calling for sugar. So what I do is whenever I use a vanilla bean, I scrape out the seeds, I use that in the recipe, and then I put the pod, because it's packed with vanilla flavor, in a jar filled with about 500 grams of sugar. And if you get 4 to 5 vanilla beans in there, even without the seeds in there, give it a month or so, and you will really extract that good vanilla flavor. So I hope that at least help you. In terms of a liquid base, I have to do a little research to figure out how to do that. So I love getting these questions. Food Concepts is asking about mango recipes. I have a few mango recipes. I think you need some more, don't you? Now, my challenge is I don't have access to delicious mangoes the way you do in the Philippines or other hot weather climates. But there are delicious mangoes available. So let me think on that. I always take those. Here's a good question. I always take those questions to heart. Mistral is asking, does the 165 also apply to creme anglaise? Yes, it does. Then you know you've cooked the eggs fully. Any further, you obviously don't want to see bubbles, or you know you've hit 212, 100 Celsius, in which case you're boiling, and that's too hot. So 165 is your safe guide with any egg desserts to know there. Oh, and hello, Nabila. Thank you for just joining us. I'm always happy that you could join us. And I see we have cracked over 400 likes. Now we're deep into this. We're almost a half hour in. Can we hit 500? I bet we can. All right. So if you're just joining us or you haven't liked yet, please, we're going for 500 here on the likes. Kanchan, you're asking an excellent question. Kanchan says, my whipped cream gets very loose after 10 minutes of whipping. Any tips? And I think you mean 10 minutes after whipping, that it starts to deflate. It can break down, especially on a warm, humid day. And so you will see, I do, with my whipped cream that I'm using to top this tart, you want to stabilize it. You want to hold the fat and liquid and the volume all together. So I will get to that. That's a very good question. You are not alone. And I'll talk about some other options for stabilizing the whipped cream too. Oh, in Brazil, Christina is saying, in Brazil you call heavy cream creme de leite fresco. I hope I pronounced that properly. Fresh milk cream. Yeah, beautiful. See, every country has its own way of describing it. And Ahmed's saying in recipes that call for brown sugar, Ahmed uses gula melaka, which is delicious. And for those who don't know gula melaka, it is a coconut sugar used in Southeast Asian desserts, and it's delicious. I actually had the privilege of learning how to make onde onde before, which have a liquefied gula melaka filling in the center of these sweet dumplings. They're absolutely delicious. Okay, we've got lots of questions. Oh, okay, we're going into the close-up, and thank you. We've hit 500. Thank you, thank you. You are all awesome. No, gravity's going to pull the... Does that help?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right. It's still on contact with the heat. So please bear with me. The glass bowl does make the cooking time take a little bit longer, but you see how frothy this is on the top? That, I know it's not cooked yet, just because of the frothiness. There's just not enough structure. The eggs haven't thickened enough to really cook out the curd. I am going to pull out my thermometer just to give it a read, just to see, are we getting in close? Because you'll find that it's fluid, and then all of a sudden, poop, it tightens up. Yeah, I'm only at 145, so we're getting there. And it takes that certain temperature to thicken. The eggs won't thicken until you reach that 165 mark, so you're really on the spot there. Okay, we're back. Thank you, Michael. Getting used to having these two cameras here. Glad we could bring you better angles with all of these recipes I'm making. And I'm getting a little sauna here, so I'm turning down my heat a bit. Oh, I would love to come to Sarawak and try the desserts. Deirdre's liking the lemon look. Horst is asking, can I stir with a Danish whisk? What is a Danish whisk? Oh, please tell me. I don't know. Does it have a different look or a different shape? What you don't need to do is pull out the electric beaters. I'm not whisking. This is a thin liquid. Oh, and I can feel it starting to tighten up. Once you get closer to the temperature, that's when you definitely don't want to walk away. You can do it early on when your ingredients are cool. And now I can see my big bubbles are starting to disappear, and I can feel it thickening. And I'm just keeping it moving as I read. So close.
You know those dough mixers?
I'm at 158.
You know those dough mixers, wooden handle with just a couple of loops? That's a
Oh, okay, like the dough mixer type. Got it. All right, I never knew it was called a Danish whisk. I think we have one somewhere. We do, with a long handle for making bread. So I think, yes, a Danish whisk would work. Certainly. Okay, I'm going to pull this off the heat now because I also know my glass has carryover cooking. But now my big bubbles have dissipated and the little bubbles have kind of blended into the curd itself. So it's got a thickness to it. And I know I've hit the temperature. I'm just going to wipe the bottom of the bowl. I don't want water drips going in there. And now you want to strain your curd through a fine strainer if you have. And there will always be those little bits. So we're getting the zest out and any little bits of, let me get every bit of that curd out. And you just push it through. And even though it feels quite fluid, don't forget, we haven't added the butter yet, but now we know we've cooked out the eggs and the zest. And you can see, even though I whisked it constantly, there are just a couple little dots of egg whites. So this is why it's so important to strain your sauces, because that would just change the texture of your finished curd. Now, unlike a pastry cream that is thickened with cornstarch or a pudding that you have to cover the surface with plastic wrap, a lemon curd you don't, because there's no cornstarch, and that's what develops as it cools as skin. So I want it uncovered because I want it to cool down quickly. And you want to set this aside and give it truly until room temperature. Now, you don't want to chill it because you want it at the same temperature as your butter when you combine the two together. So you can stir this once or twice, and about, I would say, 90 minutes before we started going live here, I made a batch so that it would be at the perfect temperature. So I'm gonna swap that out. And you will find that it does thicken a little bit as it sets, but it doesn't develop a skin, so there it is. And I'm simply going to just test with my finger. There we go, room temperature. So now it's time to add the butter. And this looks like a lemon curd in the more conventional sense right now, but it would just actually be overwhelmingly tart because you don't have the butter to sort of smooth it out. And so I'm just going to set this aside for a second while I grab my blender. So you'll want to use either a blender, a food processor, or you can use an immersion blender if you want. You could use a mixer too. Then I would actually do the reverse. So what I do is I put the curd into the blender and I add the butter to it. If you were to use a stand mixer or electric beaters, I think you would want to beat the butter and then add the curd to it a little at a time. So then it accepts it and really blends it well. So there we go. Here's my blender top. So in goes the cooled lemon curd. And for those who are just joining, and if you're staying up late to watch from the Philippines, using calamansi lime would be a great option in this dessert, and I would love to see photos of the end results. And now I need to measure the butter. So get ready. It takes 1¼ cups of butter, 285 grams. So this is a 250-gram packet, so I only need to weigh 35 grams on top of this. And I'll cut that into pieces. There we go. And I'll just simply add it to the blender at once. Now, if you're watching from a warm weather climate, pulling out your butter maybe only means pulling it out half an hour before you need to use it. You still want it to hold its shape, and it then is very important that your curd is completely cooled. You don't want the butter melting into this recipe. And this is what's going to give it the creamy look. Hello from India. Ro is asking, what brand scale am I using? I actually have a line of kitchenware called Anna Olson Kitchen, and this is my own scale. Right now it's only available in Canada, but I'm looking to expand to bigger markets, so stay with me and hopefully I can make that available to you. Now, back to the curd. We're going to get this in place and just blend. So food processor, immersion blender, or I gave you the method for electric beaters. All right, now, I know I say it in the recipe, and just as a recap, you can find the complete recipe right below where you're watching me now. And I do say it because I think it's important to mention that when you add the butter, the whole mixture completely liquefies. And I don't want you to think you've done something wrong. You haven't. That's what is supposed to happen to the recipe. The curd does liquefy. So now I happen to have some curd. I'm gonna go dig in the back of the fridge, Michael. So interestingly, because I've been, like I said, springtime, I love lemon. This is a lemon curd I made using the conventional method, melting the butter on the stovetop. And its consistency, this is fully set. I made this days ago. It is softer than this. Oh, we'll show it to this camera. Thank you, Michael. So you can see it's spoonable and spreadable. So this is the type of curd you would use not to fill a tart shell because it's too soft. You would never get a clean slice or a good set to it. But this is the kind you would spoon on freshly baked scones or to use as a filling inside of a cake. The tartness of the two, equally the same. Both tart and lemony and full-bodied, but that's why I wanted to show you the difference. And even though this is fully liquefied now, and now my shell has cooled, I can fill it, this sets up beautifully. But this is why I like to use this as a tart filling, because it fills the shell, it levels out, and now you want to give this at least 2 hours to chill in the fridge. Oh, I just love that. But you can see it has a slightly creamier color to it. I don't know if you can see.
It's lighter and...
Yeah, you can see it's lighter in color. And it does have a touch more butter than a traditional lemon curd. So I'm going to set that aside. And now it's time for the topping. So here is a tart already set. And I'm going to be daring here. I'm going to hold the tart shell, but you can see it's fully set. You'll get a nice clean slice. But this is where a tart can be a little dressier. You can decorate it as you wish. Something as simple as a scattering of fresh blueberries, I love blueberries and lemon together, would be absolutely special. If you're making this more as a fancier dessert, to top it with cream, just takes it to the next level. So I've whipped up some whipping cream, or we've learned in other countries called all sorts of different things. And oh my gosh, we're only 10 away from 600 likes. Come on, 10 people, you can do it. If you're liking what I'm doing and want more live streams, please like these videos because we're paying attention. We're listening to you. Some great questions before I get into the finishing touches here. Ola's asking, can I prep the filling in advance? How long will it keep? That is a great question. So you can make this lemon curd fully, cool it to room temperature, add the butter, and then chill it. If you don't put it in the pie shell, it will set up in your container, whatever container you put it in, and you can give it a stir to soften it up. Don't melt it, but give it a stir to soften it up. You can fill your tart shell. You will just have to spread it as opposed to getting sort of the clean satin top to it. So you can certainly make that, and you can use it as a filling for a cake. It is such a beautiful consistency. You can pipe with it. So you could top cupcakes with it. You could fill donuts with it. It's got a little more structure than a conventional lemon curd. So I really hope you give this recipe a try. Great, great questions. Can you freeze the tart? That's a good question, CK101. I have not tried freezing this tart. I would say you could freeze the curd. Lemon curd, because of the quantity of butter in it, does stay good for a couple of weeks refrigerated. Just so long as you keep it refrigerated, it's good for a few weeks. And actually, I think it was Cherry was asking, well, what's the difference? People think of a curd as a preserve. Quite often you buy it in a jar, like you do a jam or a jelly, where a jam is preserved by the sugar in combination with the acidity. A lemon curd is preserved by the acidity and the butter, and a jelly is simply like a jam except clear. So the fruit is strained out. So you still have the sugar, the acidity, and usually the pectin to set it. Excellent, excellent questions. So the finishing touch, we're just dressing up a little whipped cream here. Nothing too over the top, but you could certainly get over the top if you wanted to. I wouldn't recommend a buttercream or anything too heavy. A meringue would certainly suit this. Just remember that the whole tart cannot go in the oven because it would just simply melt the butter. So if you're going to put a meringue and you want to brown the meringue, you'll have to use a kitchen torch and just brown the meringue portion. So I've already whipped up my cream, and we had a conversation. Someone was talking earlier about, yeah, I agree, Keith. It looks like a lot of people like lemon. Talking about stabilizing your whipped cream. And I know I've talked about this with other recipes before, but it bears repeating. So whipped cream, once you whip it, it will start to break down a little bit. So if you're looking to whipped cream to use later on, you want to stabilize it a little bit. Otherwise, it'll separate out and you'll get liquid cream at the bottom and your whipped cream will collapse when you stir it. One of the things you can use is skim milk powder. You can use, what counts is that it's instant, because I have been asked before, can I use whole milk instant whole milk powder? Yes, you can. What counts is the instant, because regular milk powder has to be heated to incorporate into the water, where the instant will dissolve instantly into the cream. Now, I've already whipped my cream, just to spare you the mixer, just whipping cream. You can add your instant skim milk powder before you start whipping your cream. And if you're whipping your cream in a hot climate, make sure your cream is ice cold, and it's really even helpful to chill your bowl before you start whipping because the cream likes the cold. I'm sweetening this with just 2 tablespoons of icing sugar. And the reason I'm using the icing sugar is because it dissolves quickly into the cream and it won't deflate it at all. You can use regular granulated sugar at all, but icing sugar itself won't stabilize the cream. Now, another way to stabilize whipped cream, if you don't have access to skim milk powder or you're not interested in using it, is you can take your cream. So for 1 cup of whipping cream, pull out a 1/4 cup of that and dissolve in 2 teaspoons of cornstarch into the cold cream. And now you have to heat that stove top. It'll turn into a strange looking thick paste, like a non-appetizing pastry cream. but you pull it from the heat, you cool it, but you don't chill it because it'll really tighten up too much. Then what you do is you add that to your regular whipping cream and then you whip it, and that thick cornstarch thickened cream will stabilize your whipped cream. And now that's ideal for if you're using whipped cream in between cake layers. It really gives it a good lift and structure and holds its shape. But for things like topping a tart, you don't have to go to that extreme. But we do want to go to the extreme and make a beautiful looking finished dessert. Should I put a splash of vanilla in? Sure, why not? So this is a great opportunity. We're talking about using vanilla sugar. You could sweeten your cream with vanilla sugar instead of using extract. And that way you're clear of using alcohol in it. Just a touch here. I don't think you need to use lemon zest or lemon flavor here because that lemon flavor is just so packed into that tart. I've got my piping bag with a large star tip ready to fill. Oh, everybody, I love how conversational you're being today. I think lemon has elicited a great response from everyone. Oh, but we still want a chocolate muffin recipe. Ooh, 700, we've cracked 700 likes. This is amazing. TJ, are you thrilled? I bet TJ's thrilled. Now we're gonna go for 750. Only because I like that number, because it's, 3/4 of 1,000. Oh, if we can hit 1,000. I'll have to create a bonus recipe to keep us on air long enough, streaming enough to do 1,000. But wouldn't that be ideal? Oh, we're creeping up there. But yeah, I'd love to see 750. Oh, everybody, you're so great. You know what? I really enjoy doing these live streams. And, Rolling Meadows has been such an important part of bringing you to me and me to you over this last month. So I hope I can continue the live streams. That's our goal. We're going to keep planning. This is the last official live stream of this block. But as I said, Michael and I and TJ, we love doing these. You can tell, right? So that's why we want to come back and do some more. Oh, here's a great question. Hasnaul is asking, can you put coconut in this lemon curd? That is a brilliant idea. Why didn't I think of that? You get all the credit for that. I think that would be spectacular. I wouldn't put too much. I would say not even a full cup because you don't want that texture to interfere, but I think it would be delicious. Or how about working some into the crust too? Great combination. Ooh, a red velvet recipe. I like these suggestions. Oh, and Jackie, yes. We were talking, you wrote earlier, you wanted some tips for macaron. The macaronage is key. I do believe in, I do what's called the tante pour tante, and it's this for that basically, or no, what do you mean? Like this for this, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio by weight of ground almonds and icing sugar, and you pulse that in a mini chopper or a food processor to really grind it, and I find that helps you get the smoothest texture to your macaron. The key is not over whipping your egg whites, regardless of French method, where you just whip the egg whites with the sugar, or Italian method, where you boil the sugar and add to the whites, or Swiss method, where you warm the whites with the sugar and whip it. The key is not over whipping, because otherwise, if you over whip, even if your macaronage is correct, your folding of the almonds into the egg whites, you'll get a hollow shell. You'll get the cap on the top, but then when you bite into it, the middle will have sunk down into the bottom. So that is a great tip. I also find it's critical to get, after your macarons come out of the oven, get them off the baking tray. So whether you're using a silicone mat or a piece of parchment, slide that right off the baking tray so that you don't get condensation or sweat building in a sticky macaron. So I hope those are some good starting tips, but I'm taking that challenge, Jackie, saying, okay, I think we need to do a macaron live stream or something, don't we? Okay, so I'm going to make note of that. All right, time for piping. Now I have to put my head down for a little bit. I think I'll just do a rope ring all the way around. The nice thing about a rope is if you're not using a cake wheel and you can't spin, you can pick up where you left off. You can stop and start where you need to. Keep piping around. You know what I was playing? I'm always playing with new things. I was playing this week with roasting white chocolate. And I turned that into a ganache. And then I was playing with that as a cream filling, a topping. I worked it into a pumpkin pie. I know a pumpkin pie sounds crazy here in Canada in the end of March because that's an autumn dessert, but I tend to have to work on recipes out of season sometimes. But I'm having fun playing with roasted white chocolate, so we can play with that too. And Noella, don't worry, not last forever, just last for the next couple weeks. And then what you'll want to do is make sure that you hit the notification button right here on the channel, because that's how you're going to keep updated on what new releases. Now, we're still launching new videos. You can count on new videos, including from my latest series, Anna's Occasions, coming your way every week. So don't worry, I'm not gone. And if I decide I want to pop up and do a live stream on just asking some questions, I can even do that too, but I'll always make sure I give you a little notice. So don't worry. I like doing this too much. And I'm just, in case you missed what I'm doing, I'm taking little springtime colored candy dragées and adding them on top. But this could be fresh berries, fresh strawberries, what have you. But I thought I'd make this look very springy. Oh, okay. Trisha wants a creme brulee cake. Ah, that's interesting. You know what recipe I was going to play with? I haven't even started figuring out how to do it, but I wanted to do a savory creme brulee. I was thinking a Parmesan rosemary creme brulee, but then how do we get the crackly crust without putting on too much sugar and making it too sweet? Or does it have like crispy, you know when you bake Parmesan cheese and it becomes crispy and cracker-like? That might be really good. And Michael's behind the camera nodding his head, so I guess I'm...
Like a frico.
A frico, yeah, that would be great. This is what we do. We collaborate and chat, and I'm finishing. I think I'm just about done here. All right, are we ready?
If you don't mind, can you replace the pot with the tart so I can get a close-up shot?
Sure thing. I'll just get this right out of the way for you. Is this placement okay?
Beautiful.
Okay, so there is the lemon tart. It looks exactly like the picture. Don't you love when that happens? I know I do. Or the other way around. And let's give it a slice so I can show you what the texture is like. And it literally cuts like butter. Because it is. And some lemon. And the crust stays nice and crisp underneath. Are you getting the close-up of that? So you can see the angle. So it really does set up beautifully. It's got an airiness to it, but it's not mousse-like. And so I hope you've enjoyed this lesson in a different style of lemon curd, but ultimately it delivers on that tart, tangy lemon flavor we love so much. Your comments have been amazing. Thank you. We've cracked 750 in this last little moment. Dare we try and reach 800? I don't know. And thank you everyone for joining. We've had a great crowd today. I love seeing your notes. Absolutely fabulous. Your support is always valued. And like I said, we are plotting and planning, and I'm recipe testing as much as I can to deliver to you some creative and delicious new content, but always with you in mind so that I can make you the best baker you can be. And I know you are amazing bakers. Thank you for your support. Thank you to Rolling Meadow Farms for having me here, and enjoy. If you're celebrating holidays over the next few weeks and months, I wish you the best. Be safe, be well, and enjoy a sweet treat. Creamy. But the lemon, the creaminess of the curd does not dull that tart lemon flavor at all. I love a good lemon dessert.